As we've been reporting, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was left disappointed after the US President left the G7 summit early, ditching plans for a meeting between the leaders. Joining us live now is the former Australian ambassador to the US, Arthur Sinodinos. Arthur, good to see you. Thanks so much for your time. I think we can all understand that the conflict with Iran is higher on the priority list for the US President right now compared to talks with the Australian Prime Minister. But it is far from ideal, isn't it, for Mr Albanese to have gone this long without a face-to-face meeting?
Yeah, look, I'm sorry, I'm doing this from a hotel, so I'm sorry about the picture. But look, it's great to see you. And look, it is disappointing, but that's not a reflection on the overall strength of the relationship between Australia and the US. And there'll be an opportunity, I'm sure, again soon for them to get together. But it is important that they get together. It's important that the Prime Minister eyeballs the President and takes him through our arguments as to why, as a special partner of the United States, a special ally and partner, we deserve better treatment on tariffs, and for him to understand why AUKUS is important.
You know better than most, of course, just how much planning goes into lining up a meeting with the US President. Is it a no-brainer in your view for Anthony Albanese to try again and head to Europe for next week's NATO meeting?
Yes. Look, I mean, it'd be desirable, yes, for him to do that. The sooner they get together, the better. Now, maybe they can't do it next week for other reasons, but the President and the Prime Minister have got to get together. We've got to eyeball him and hear for ourselves that he does support AUKUS and he does support better trade treatment of Australia.
Well, you mentioned AUKUS. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer emerged from his meeting at the G7 with Donald Trump sounding pretty confident about the future of the AUKUS Pact after the US does conduct that review of the agreement. Did that bring you much comfort, or do you think we should be bracing for some serious changes to the agreement?
No, it confirmed that the Brits are all in. They're very much in the wagon on this, so it was good that Keir Starmer got that. And we can see from the money that the Brits are putting aside for submarines that they're serious. But we need the Americans to complete the review, to reaffirm their support for AUKUS, and then we can get on with it.
A meeting with Donald Trump, as we all know, and as several world leaders have found out, the hard way doesn't come without risks. How should Anthony Albanese approach that in-person meeting, do you think, with President Trump next week, if he can pull it off?
I think Anthony has just got to be himself. There's no point being anything else other than authentic. He's got to establish a personal rapport, but he's got to go in there confident. The Americans like people who are confident, knowing what he's got to sell and why it's in America's interest. And I think the President would respect that.
How crucial do you think it may be for the Prime Minister to have some flexibility when it comes to Australia's defence budget?
Well, I think they have to have that conversation, and it's not just about numbers. It's also about, OK, what's the capability, particularly for the threats we face over the next 3 or 4 years in our region, that best complements what the US wants to do in the region. Have that sort of conversation. We should be up for the conversation. We have the AUSMIN meeting. Our foreign and defence ministers meet their counterparts once a year. That's a great forum to have a proper discussion of this. It's an important topic.
It certainly is. Arthur Sinodinos, just before we let you go, how would you characterise the state of affairs at the moment? We've been reporting on these missile strikes that are continuing between Iran and Israel. Obviously, quite a few options now on the table for the US President as to how much more the US does to be involved.
This is one of the most dangerous moments post the end of the Cold War. It really is. This is bigger than the invasion of Iraq. It's bigger than going into Afghanistan. The reality is that this is existential for Israel, as they see it, and it's existential for the regime in Tehran. And so the President's decisions over the next few hours could be extremely significant in a historic sense.
Certainly could be, yes. There's a way to run. Arthur Sinodinos, always appreciate you sharing your time and insights with us. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.